Welcome to the Inspired Evolution, and it is such a treat to be here today. I have the vibes from Espen. Espen, I actually don't know how to say your last name. Hit me with it.
Hjalmby, Hjalmby.
At no point was I ever going to pronounce that from the way that it's spelled. So I'm glad you pronounced that, because people are going to want to get in touch with you after this, and I'm glad we've got the spelling out clear straight off the bat. For those tuning in to Espen for the first time, he's a speaker, he's a wellness educator, he's a business strategist, and he's also officially an Australian Ninja Warrior. What a mix, man. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Let's deliver some value to those out there. Let's get to work, man.
So hit me with it. So tell me about, your story obviously, is all up, down, and all around. But let's dive into that a little bit. I usually like to start this lighthearted, but I think, your story is really profound and it goes to a really deep place. So, where did wellness really begin for you?
The wellness journey for me began simply by experience. I think sometimes the universe has a beautiful way to show us and give us exactly what we need to experience in order for us to become who we're destined to become. So for me, growing up in a small family in Norway, for those of you who have seen the movie Frozen, movie Frozen is actually based on my hometown in Norway, a tiny little town of 20,000 people called Arendale. And born and raised in the snow, when I was 8 years old, I walked into my little brother's room and found him passed away in his bed. So after that, it became a journey of a lot of struggle, because my mum fell apart, my father wasn't around, my sister was born 2 years later handicapped, and for me it was the start of my life was really a life of a lot of pain and suffering and blame, asking the question, why did this happen to us, what have we done to deserve this kind of thing. And I think a lot of people, to the viewers and listeners out there also, when we experience hardship, very easy to blame, very easy to not see how it's happening for us as a part of our spiritual contract, as I believe. So then started a bit of a downward spiral, getting in trouble, fights and drugs and alcohol and all these things, until eventually traveled from Norway to Australia to, I guess you could say, find myself, get out of the rut. I had 2 degrees at the time. I embarked upon a new journey to get 2 more, and just wanted to find the answers. My brother passed away. The question was, why do we take life for granted when life is so precious? My sister was born handicapped 2 years later, never had a chance to walk like so many of us. So my question was, where does sickness and disease come from, and what does it actually take to be healthy, and not just to survive, but to truly thrive? And then I had the blessed experience of coming to Australia and crashing a motorcycle and breaking both my legs and my back, as I'd only been in Australia for 4 months. And that was really the start of the experience for me to really needing to now recover myself all by myself. And needless to say, it was a long journey, 2.5 years in and out of wheelchairs with hospital infections and everything. And that was the main reason also why Ninja Warrior wanted me back several years in a row, to share the story to all the 2 million viewers in Australia, as in, it's not the obstacles that define you, it's how you respond to the obstacles that makes you who you are.
Which is such a powerful message. Yeah, I find that really profound. So was there something wrong with the medical system around when you were being treated? Because I know, now when I look at a lot of what you're offering, it's a lot of not alternative health. It makes a lot of sense what you're offering. But I think at the time when you would have been healing, not a lot of what you're teaching people now would have been mainstream.
Well, I think for you as well, with your expertise in health and fitness, with your knowledge of Ayurvedic medicine and your understanding of that, I mean, we call it alternative. It's been around for 4,000 years. So, and modern medicine is 230 years old. So which one is the alternative? And I think there is a clear understanding that there is no competition between the two. There is no competition between 2 different modalities, because they serve a different purpose. One is a sick-based industry, which we happen to call healthcare, but you don't enter that system unless you are sick. And one is the healthcare and wellness industry. And I think the difference is just asking, the question for the viewers and listeners out there, what do you want in your life? Do you want to just cruise by and see how things happen? I always say the only way to cruise is downhill. Or do you want to dedicate yourself to living an experience where all of your cells are vibrating so you can get the most out of this beautiful dance of life? Your question becomes an intention. Your intention must be followed by action, and the action then is the byproduct of the life that you end up living. So what do you want? What do you want out of your life? I think the question is.
I think that's really profound, and that's like we spoke a little bit about this before we press record today. Is the big reason why, like for me, it was so fascinating to get you on is because of the different roles that you play. Health and wellness is like undoubtedly the cornerstone of who you are and what you offer. But in terms of the vitality and all that, like on the back end of on the front end almost of that, we've got this business consultancy that you do, and you speak a lot. You travel around speaking about business and consulting, and I think for me that's like a really really yummy spot to be having a conversation with you around. And for me it demonstrates like what wellness really is about. It's not just about inside. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. I think do you want to touch on the wellness side of things or the business combined in the wellness sense?
Just that thread that leads through the two, like what's inspiring you to help people with their business really? Like, is it the health that's inspiring you to help people with their businesses?
Definitely. Well, it's my experiences, right? And so I teach in my seminar called Quantum Living, where I teach the art, science, and philosophy of life, really. And we bridge the quantum physics or quantum mechanics aspect, which is what I call the mystical, with personal development, which is the science. And we use the power of meditation, which is the application, to tap into finding ourselves. And one of the key components and the key questions that I always ask is, what do you believe about yourself? If you believe that you are simply flesh and bone and what you can experience with your senses, then you are going to live a limited life. But if you believe there is a soul, which is what I call the state of unconditional love within you,
I love that. Cool analogy. That is so good.
Can't go back from that, baby.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. Thank you.
Oh man, and fear is obviously false evidence appearing real, which is at the other end, right?
Yeah.
And so, I always say to the viewers and listeners, what do you believe? If you believe that there is a soul and a spirit inside of you, that perhaps you are a spirit living a human experience, then you can identify with a spirit instead of identify with just this human experience. As such, then begins the journey to limitlessness, because if you are a spirit and there is some sort of divinity that lives within you, as Dr. Deepak says, one of the most famous Ayurvedic medical practitioners in the world, there's about 50 to 100 trillion cells in the human body, and the estimated 6 trillion actions per cell per second, let the penny drop, is governed by your innate intelligence, this beautiful divine intelligence that lives within. So for the listeners, for the viewers, what do you believe? If you believe that there is flesh and bone, concrete, dirt, and wood, and that's it, then, well, that's where you're going to find yourself living. If you believe that there is something, call it, innate intelligence, universal intelligence, unconditional love, consciousness, and a spirit within, then that's where you end up living. And that's a very magical place to live. And as Professor Bruce Lipton, the first guy in the world to do stem cell research in the 1960s, has found it. He said, what you believe, you'll achieve. He wrote a book called The Biology of Belief, because he knows and he's proven now to us that all of our cells are listening, and what we believe we will achieve. So you change your belief and you will change your life. And that's one of my core messages that I deliver.
I love that, especially like Bruce Lipton's work that then bleeds entirely into epigenetics and what we're switching on and switching off on a real subconscious level. And I think your work around beliefs is, I really believe in it.
Pardon the pun. That's awesome.
What was the first moment that you had this realization that actually what you're believing is having a radical shift and impact? Was it something that you chose to install a belief and then down the track something became made manifest from that and you were like, holy shit, this works? Or was it, something happened and you realized, oh, actually I achieved something that I believed? Or like, tell me a bit more about like, what was the first time you experienced that?
That exact question that you asked there is the exact same question that the Today Show on Channel 9 asked as well, just as we were literally about to start the interview earlier this year or end of last year. And they asked the same question and my answer was the same. I had, when I was laid up in hospital, so when I broke my legs and my back in 2006, I got into conventional medical treatment. So I had the antibiotics, I had the surgeries, I had all of the things that, you would do, or you might do. things change now. We become conscious now. We understand the difference between sickness and wellness, as I said. But I went down a conventional medical route, and after 2.5 years, I had lost 15 kilos, and I knew in my heart that I was dying. Had done everything right, but I was so heavily drugged up with broad spectrum antibiotics that my immune system was just annihilated.
Yeah.
And it was a Monday morning when the doctor went in and said, I was laid up with intravenous antibiotics up my veins, and he said, Espen, the infection is spreading. This was a multi-resistant staph infection. So for those who don't know, got it from the hospital. Yeah. Yeah, it was iatrogenic. It was medically induced by a surgeon that had a habit of not sterilizing, as I was told later by the registered nurse. And again, when you look at that, you can say, oh, how could they, and all these things. But I am on a spiritual contract. I manifested this lesson. I could see it on the way, or I could see it in the way. And I didn't have the knowledge that I do now at that time. And what I teach now, we just call the hero's journey, as in understanding that when you are in the deepest pit of the pain of your life, in that essence, your purpose is revealed. And in your quest with what you've experienced, this wholeheartedly. That reveals the character that gives you the chance to now be inspired, or in spirit from its Latin derivation, to serve. And so you become unstoppable. So for the listeners out there, for the viewers out there, if you don't really know what your mission, vision, and purpose is, follow your life and start to ask good questions, and you might find that journey. For me, it started when the doctor looked me in the eyes and said, you've got a 50-50 chance of losing your right hip from the waist and down, from the hip and down. And if it continues to spread, it'll attack your internal organs, and you might die. And when he dropped that on me, and I was in hospital by myself, I looked like I had HIV. I was so skinny. I was so drained. I was so sick. And I knew I was dying.
You're in Australia by yourself at this point as well.
Correct, yeah. So all my family was in Norway, and I left Norway in 2005, came over here, to find myself again. I went home to Norway for 8 months. My mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer early 2006. So I flew home and took care of her. She's still alive to this day because of the work that we've done and her belief that it's possible. So I want to give honor this conversation, send some love to my mama. And it literally just became an opportunity for me to attract the lessons into my life that I needed to become who I needed who was destined or had the potential to become. So the doctor looks me in my eyes, and he said, you might lose your legs, and if it continues to spread, you might die. And in that moment, I had a full spiritual experience, because I had basically given up. Well, not basically, I had given up. And when he said that, I'm like, hey man, I'm pushing death here. And I felt so alone, and I felt so abandoned, because I had no one, I had no family over here, and anything like that. And so when he said that, I was literally just faced with my greatest fear, which was that I too would die like my little brother. And if I didn't, then I too would be in a wheelchair like my sister. So my two greatest fears were realized in the moment. And so in that essence, I had something come over me, and it was literally just a rush of goosebumps, a continuous flood of some sort of spiritual experience, and tears of gratitude. And as the doctor left, I could take a breath again. I could breathe. I felt something that cleared. And so I kind of put a smile on my face, and I ripped the intravenous antibiotics out of my arms, and I left the hospital, and I never looked back. And it was such a liberating experience.
Do not try this at home. Wait, you can't just gloss over that. You got to add the do not try this at home right after that.
Yeah, man.
Mass walkouts on hospitals, bro.
Do what Dr. Espen did. Oh shit! Don't try this at home. Oh my god!
Consult.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe don't consult with your doctor. Consult with Dr. Espen before conducting any.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. So that was the experience, man. It was fully spiritual. It was not something that I had expected. Certainly not planned.
Yeah.
And when it came over me, it was just. The sentence that came over me too, which is what Channel 9 picked up on, was, if it is to be, it's up to me. So it's up to you, not just what actions you take, but what you choose to believe. Neuroplastically, what you create your brain to believe, and what frequency you vibrate at. So at that essence, for me, life was so precious. And I knew in my heart that I had to change it, because clearly going down the medical route put me back together, put my legs back together, 16 different bits of metal, got me back on my feet. I wouldn't have been around if it wasn't for modern medicine. But if I kept going down the sickness care route, I would have been dead. So I know that. And so I left the hospital. I literally ripped them out, and I didn't feel an ounce of pain. I left the hospital. I went home to my mate that I lived with, and I said, it's time to fucking heal. So I just did what I needed to do. I cleansed and juiced every day. I meditated and prayed every day. I did what I could with yoga. I'm a chiropractor by trade, and I understand the power of having a clear spine without interference to that energy system is vital. So I got my chiropractic care, and I did all of the things that I now teach. Meditation was a fundamental component of believing that I was a spirit that had the power to heal, man. And I did 2.5 weeks. I was in and out of consciousness. I passed out multiple times. I had crazy experiences. I went into convulsion. I was sweating. I had fever. And eventually the hole on the side of my hip, where I've got a massive scar from all the surgeries, closed off after 2.5 years of spitting pus. And I healed, and I'm alive, and I'm well.
That's the biology belief.
That's the biology of belief, baby. Wow. And that's where I can tell you that, I can travel the world and I can teach the philosophy of wellness and the power that makes the body heals the body, because not only have I studied it and made it my passion, but I have lived it, and I have been challenged by the universe, and I have overcome it. So if anyone ever tries to tell me that you don't have the power within you to heal and to do magnificent things, I will just smile and know that I have had the lesson. I'm living my truth, and what we believe we will achieve.
So that brings me to my next question, which is, okay, you're interfacing with a lot of people that may actually have challenges in believing in the biology of belief. What are the biggest challenges that you see people have in resistance to their health and wellness from the perspective of a belief? What beliefs do people have that don't serve them, that bring them like unease, dis-ease, disease?
Wow, that's beautiful. And so that's what I teach in the 2-day advanced. And because the real essence of truth, my friend, is that you and I are heavily conditioned. We are heavily indoctrinated. Yeah, and
no,
we...
not me, just you.
That's right. That's right. You are clear as day.
I got this.
Dude, I got that shit covered. And that's the belief. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it, brother. It's just such an interesting game, though. I've always said it's not so much what we have to learn, it's what we have to unlearn.
Yeah.
Because of all of that crazy conditioning. And I have to go back to my childhood and revisit that consciously and bring those issues out of my tissues and transcend that old negative energy that's stored, because if I do not, I will get sick. And I know for the listeners and viewers, how many things have you not been conditioned to believe to be true that is not true? 95% of what we said to ourselves and the feelings and the thoughts that we had yesterday will be the same today, unless we make a conscious decision to change it. So to answer your question, when it comes to belief, well, it's really just firstly understanding that limiting beliefs are the ones that we cannot see, are the ones that are so clear to everyone else but to ourselves. And to me, I'll go through the work and I'll do the conscious work, and I'll use all the expertise that I've got and the things that I've done. Still cannot see it because it's the veil. And when that happens, you'll have a coach. And that's why I say you have to have a coach, with yourself, inspired evolution, and the things that we do. Yeah. And the things that we do, when it comes to that, it's an opportunity to have a coach in your life. And if you don't have a coach, you will not be able to see it clearly. And when you can't see it clearly, you'll keep recreating those patterns over and over again, not just in the quantum world, but in the subconscious mind, in your physiology and in your actions accordingly. So the real essence is, how do we change what we believe? Well, you just get to do the work. You believe in your potential. You find yourself a coach. You dedicate yourself to the process. You understand that all healing happens outside of the comfort zone, and you just do the work, literally do the work. And you understand the byproduct of doing the work. Well, it's very different to not doing the work. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're sharing that, the continuum from that, then does that bring us back to the like the idea that the reason we focus on health and wellness, but then end up becoming business oriented and business minded, is to actually help not just the cells inside our body thrive, but us as a node in the network of this existence thrive?
Powerful question, brother. I think the essence of this is, every single person has a very specific set of values. This is the work of Dr. John DeMartini and so many others. Tony Robbins touches on this every time he does an advanced seminar. And I talk about this as well. This is very vital to understand that every listener, every viewer out there will have a very specific set of values, which I call the expression of your spiritual values. So if you are a spirit, you have a certain purpose. You're born into this life. You've chosen this life. You've chosen your parents. You've chosen your challenges, and you're blessed with the opportunities to make decisions. When you realize that you have a specific set of values, certain things that you do that really sets your soul on fire, opens your heart up, it brings you into that present time conscious moment when time and space dissolves. That one thing that you do that just you love so much, and for most people out there, it's there, you just haven't found it yet. You just haven't tapped into it yet. When you recognize that, my mission, like yours as well, is the same thing, is to help people live a life that they love. That is always possible. That is always possible for those listeners and viewers that think that, no, that's not me. I don't know what it is, and I've been lost for so long. It's always possible. The greater the challenge, the greater the hero. The more lost you are, the more you will be found. And the essence of that is why I teach what I teach, and why you do, I believe, what you do, is because when we can someone find their light, someone find their purpose and their vision, mission, purpose, what happens now is that the light is sparked, and that unconsciously gives other people permission to do the same. When you do that, when you find that calling, when you find that in your heart to know that you're now living congruently to your spiritual expression, how could you not serve? How could you not create a business that's going to help people and to make a difference in this fucking world by you now living your truth? If you do what you love and love what you do and help other people become, healthy and live magnificent lives, you not only are you a human, now you become a freaking saint. And you can serve, and you can leave this earth feeling that you did everything you could with everything you had, left the world a better place. And because of you, families are changed, lives are changed. You've raised the consciousness and the awareness of this planet by being a light worker. And I'm going all the way to the top now. It might be a bit esoteric for some people, but you have the vision inside you. You have the truth inside you. Find your truth, live your truth, love your truth, and everything will open. That's the key to it.
I love it. And just in that conversation, you'll just notice that Espen mentioned that, you chose the life that you've got, and discussing back and forth. We've just been talking about beliefs for a little bit, but I really want to anchor just how foundational just that, like he glossed over it because obviously it's something that he's installed really deeply inside, but just how vital that belief is. Because just think for a second, the converse of that. If you don't believe that you chose this life, then what? The consequence of that is that basically you're a victim to everything that pops in your field. And
that's exactly right, bro.
A really powerful belief to have as a foundational belief. I want to ask you now, brother, is what are some of the biggest challenges for yourself on the way, knowing you if everything is a manifestation of your beliefs, and this is something I ask myself a lot of as well, and it is a bit of a prickly question, and hence why I'm kind of comfortable asking you it, is no understanding belief, and that everything that I'm creating I'm responsible for. And then there are obviously some shadows. There are obviously some places where things aren't going as congruently as they should be. What are those challenges in your life, and how do you navigate your way through those?
That's the question. That's a wonderful question. The first thing that I would say is understanding, again, the conditioning. So when you are conditioned and things happened, the longer it takes from a painful experience to the fact that you can see it happening for you as much as happening to you, the denser we are, the more work we have to do. And see, that's the tricky mind of the ego, because it'll try and trick you to believe that what you're experiencing is real, and it has with it more drawbacks than benefits. The longer you are staying there, the more you are going to damage yourself and your opportunity to heal, and obviously the energy that you carry with you that impacts others as well. So the first thing to recognize is that when a trauma sets in is simply to ask one freaking question, and instead of asking the question, why is this happening to me, which renders you as an external influencer, like you said, to the circumstance. If it's happening to you, you're a victim of it. You cannot respond to it with any degree of conscious control because you're external to it. If you change the question, so imagine something really painful happens, something really challenging happens, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible, I'm struggling. And of course, because even though we are spirits, we're still living a human experience. We have to fully embody and live this human experience. And that's with all the waves that comes with it, man. All the emotions, those crazy things, right? And we're dealing with women too. It's like, embody those emotions, bro. Don't walk around thinking that you're this cool cat. You have emotions, vulnerability, strength. Tap into your strength. Right?
Yeah, I love that.
Don't be such a cool cat. And so when the experience kicks in there and you're like, oh my God, this is so painful. Just fucking ask the question, okay, even though I'm suffering right now, how might this be happening for me? And if you change the question to why is this happening to me to how might this be happening for me, you go from being a victim of your history to a master of your destiny in the moment by simply changing the question. And therein lies, I think, the formula to understanding that even though in theory this might not be correct, what you believe you will achieve. So change the question, change your life. And you can overcome any challenge. And then I teach the hero's journey, which is the greater the challenge, the greater the hero. The more pain you've been through, the more power you can reclaim, the more powerful you are as a spirit.
Yeah, I think that's a very profound idea of the fact that pain is potential. And it's something that again and again I've come to realize. And I didn't really ask for this lesson, but it's something that just consistently shows up in all the people that have been on the podcast. Every single person that is inspiring humanity forward has had their challenges, they've had to go through their hero's journey to basically interface with and come back with their blessing. It's like, this is what I got and this is what's changed my life. For me, it was depression, 6 years of depression. And out of that, meditation brought me back and completely reconstituted my life. And out of that is just, And so on the back of that, it's just been me traveling around, like guiding meditation and mindfulness and, emotional intelligence in and around all of that. And it's, no different to your journey, with wellness and, the challenges that you've shared as well. So what is it that inspires you to keep pushing on this journey? Like just more and more thrive, more and more vitality is, what is it that really gets you out of bed, gets you going and, has you tomorrow speaking to like all these people in Perth? What's really driving you?
The real transformation of the people that we serve. You want to make $1 million? You help 1 million people. That's what transforms me. That's what keeps me going. Because I know that I'm, have experienced and been blessed to have all these challenges and all the wonderful things that I've experienced. I've traveled the world. I've done so many magical things. And I know that the more people I help, the more I step into my purpose. And that's the inspiration. When you are aligned with your truth, you want to share that truth. Because I should say that the greatest fear on earth is public speaking before the fear of dying. And I think, well, it's crazy, right? That's the truth, right? But
it's insane.
I think, isn't it? But of course, we've all been there. When you stand in front of that big crowd and you're like, your heart skips a beat and you're like, holy crap. The essence, though, is that instead of having a fear of public speaking, you should have a fear of not public speaking, because if you don't share your truth, if it is aligned with, being good for you, good for the other person, and good for the planet, it will not raise the level of consciousness, love and awareness and service in this world if you don't step up and share your truth. So get yourself out of the way. Get yourself out of the way, because it's not about you.
That's brilliant.
It's about them. And when you focus on them, your life will fucking be magnificent. But if you focus on you, well, you get you. And it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you shared there. Again and again, like there's been these few milestones in my life, and it's actually been when I've consciously just gone, I don't want to do this. But people are saying do this, and someone's appeared to help me through this, and I'm just removed myself from the equation, and all the energies are going there anyway. It's just me that's sort of stuck here and just, all right, I surrender. and magic, pure magic has happened. That's how this podcast was born. I never wanted to do a podcast, never wanted to be sitting here positioning myself as an expert in anything, as I'm just a perpetual student. And that's kind of been this journey that's completely changed my life, just as one key example, I think that's fascinating. And I really, really respect what you shared there, which is the idea of you should have a fear of not public speaking, holding down your truth. I think that's a really profound idea, brother, because for me, a big part of depression is the opposite of expression. When you're bottling things down and just like tacking things in and not free to sort of share what you need to share. And I think we have some really beautiful friends in Nicole Gibson as well, and a lot of the work they're doing, building community, giving people the opportunity to speak and just share their truth and be validated, be seen in what they need to share. That really helps with mental health, because you can finally express, finally see, and that's the opposite of the depression.
That's so beautiful. And, that's not to be confused with the fact that people aren't supposed to take care of themselves. I'm not saying focus on other people. I'm saying when it comes to yourself, take care of yourself first. Be aware of what energies you have around you. The people that are around you will have an energy that most average or most commonly will drag you down or lift you up. You need to be surrounding, like Tony Robbins says, proximity is power. Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. If you understand that you surround yourself with people that raise your awareness, that raise your vibration, that gift you good energy to your opportunity to be more of you, you take care of yourself, particularly mamas out there. Mamas put everyone else first. If mama ain't happy and nobody happy. So you got to take care of yourself first. When you're taking care of yourself and your light can shine in your personal life, then when it comes to your professional life, that's when you serve.
What's the biggest challenge that you've faced on your journey this far, beyond like your physical challenges? Like obviously you've had your issues, like, with your family, like with different family members having different physical challenges and ailments. But beyond the physical challenges, what really sticks out as being like, oh, that was really hard?
My pattern. My conditions.
Thank you for honoring that. Yeah, awesome.
Oh, my patterns, man. And I'll tell you one of the main patterns. Before I do, I'd like to just quickly share what I said before about it's not so much what we have to learn as what we have to unlearn. So when we learn a belief or a behavior or a thought or an emotion or a pattern when we're young, let's say that our parents tell us that money's not going to make you happy, and we start believing in that, or the fact that, we can't do it and you're not good enough and therefore you won't be loved, whichever. Yep. What happens in the subconscious and with our words and our actions, our thoughts and our patterns, is that every time we have that thought, every time we have that feeling, every time we do that action or have that behavior, what happens is that the thought sparks what we know as neuroplasticity. So the message starts going from that part of the brain to that part of the brain, from the head to the heart, from the body to the heart, from the head to the body, whatever. And the more we do have that thought, that pattern, that emotion, that something, the more we have that, the more we are getting conditioned. The thicker this nerve pathway becomes, and the harder it is. Myelinate. Yeah, exactly, brother. And for those listening that don't know what that is, what happens is that the actual brain pathway, the actual nerve gets thicker and thicker and thicker, so the signal can go faster and faster. Having said that, then, the longer we've been conditioned, the harder it is to break. And so you need to get to work now. For the listeners, for the viewers, get to work now. There is no past, there is no future, for eternity is in the now, like Einstein said. So my pattern was simply to grow up as a young Viking, going through trauma. The way I survived was, I'm a powerful man, I'm a strong man, I can work my way through this. So I was working in the grind. I was in the gym every day. I was working, doing my work. And when I started my first multidisciplinary wellness clinic, we took it to 8 clinics in 5 years, 4 of which hit 7 figures. It was all in the grind. It was 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, 6 years, nonstop. Your question was, what's the number one challenge for me now? The pattern. Of falling into the grind. The grind is the work of the warrior in the 3-dimensional world. Right. So that's us going, let's go, push. Now you can create from that, but it requires a shitload of energy, time, and commitment. And And there's two states. There's the stressful state. This is, you want to listen really clearly to this for those viewers and listeners out there. There's two states. It's the stressful state and it's the loving, present, joyful state. Ask yourself the question, which of these two states do I live in most of the time? And if you're not certain, intuition will tell you right now, your intuition will tell you. But if you're not certain, just simply write it down at the end of each day for 7 days. Today, I was in the majority of my state was, let's say, stressful 70% of the time and 30% joyful. You do that every day for 7 days and you summarize it. Now you have the state that you live in most of the time. So if you want to create a magical life, and you're co-creating with the universe from a stressful state, guess what the hell you're going to get?
A little bit more stress.
A little bit more freaking stress. And then you're going to have, as you said before, procrastination, hesitation, frustration, desperation, and depression as a byproduct to help you come back to your truth. They're not sicknesses. They are symptoms from the universe to help you speak and live and love your truth. And so I know I might be speaking a bit slow for some people, but the essence is that if you're living the most of your life in a stressful state, you're creating that reality in the quantum field. You're creating that reality in the subconscious. You're creating that reality in your physiology. You're creating that reality with your relationship, with your finance, with your business, with everything. But if you can learn to transcend those old patterns and do the work and step into living a blissful, joyous, present time conscious life, which is fully possible through neuroplasticity and training, then you can create from a magical space and then become a powerful co-creator with consciousness because you are listening, you are being and not doing.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And so in and around that, what would you suggest as being the key sort of thread to the carpet to start unwinding so you can learn to transcend? Yeah.
The essence of that is find a coach, mate, Inspired Evolution. Listen to the podcast, apply what you learn. More than welcome to come to my seminars. They're called Quantum Living. They're normally either a short-term 4-hour event followed by a 2-day event followed by a 7-day retreat in Bali called Conscious Enterprise. So do the work. That's really the key. Find someone, when we always say congruency is the key, find someone that lives the life and exemplifies who you want to be and what you want to do and, the experiences that you want to have and follow them. Do what they do their work, step up, and just continue to push yourself and to not give up on yourself. And in the moments when you're feeling so much and everything is ended, know that greater the challenge, the greater the hero. It's on the way, not in the way. But find a coach, find a mentor, and follow them. I've always had mentors. I've outgrown many of them. But if I don't have a mentor, I don't grow.
Well, that starts with believing. So for those that want to tune into your work, for the first easiest place to do that is your website, or?
You go to my website, www.drespen.com, or just go to Dr. Espen Hjalmby, which is Hjalmby on Facebook, and you'll see some of my work there.
Yeah, brilliant, brother. So I've got a last couple of questions. Is there a message that's in your heart that's just consistently burning to be spread? What is that?
And the message that I always share, I think that has come from obviously my experiences, the universal opportunities that I've been gifted and blessed to have. It's the same message as I said in front of 2 million people on the Australian Ninja Warrior when I hit the buzzer and went into the semis. And it simply is that life will always give you challenges. Some challenges will be big and some challenges will be small. Since we all have to agree that life is not going to be free of challenges, then changing what we believe about the challenges will change how we respond and how we get an opportunity to attract more challenges, those that inspire us, hopefully. So when there's a challenge, know that you've attracted this as a spiritual being, that this is a part of your soul contract, that you've asked for this. And step up and take responsibility and change the question from why is this happening to me to how might this be happening for me, and you transform in an instant. That is the end of suffering. So if you want to talk about ending suffering, you end suffering by changing the fact that you believe that it's happening for you, not to you. And that does not neglect the emotional process that you still need to go through, which is part of the human experience, but it changes the entire being of all of your cells, of your mind and everything, because now you're a powerful spirit that has brought this in instead of you being victim to something that you think is not serving you. It's the exact opposite way around. The greater the challenge, the greater the hero.
I love that. And my last question, and by no means my least question, is beyond the work, beyond the chiropractic, beyond being an absolute ninja, and all the quantum living and the skin suit and being Dr. Espen, it's metaphysical entirely in its nature. Who are you?
I am a warrior for the light.
I love that. It's been such a treat and such a pleasure to have you on here today. Thank you for just sharing yourself so openly, so vulnerably, going super deep. And obviously, thank you so much for the time and the energy today. But also, thank you so much for all the energy and all the work that goes into all the moments that you had to show up, to curate along the journey to actually be who you are today, to be able to have this conversation with us. And as always, wishing you all the best for the future that's coming forward. Blessings, brother.
And same thing to you, man. Because of what you do, like I said, you don't have a fear of doing a podcast. Now you have a fear of not doing this podcast, because the people that are listening transform in the moment. For those who listen, for those who watch, know that you have such incredible potential that you haven't even begun to tap into yet. If you can find it in your heart just to believe for a second that there is tremendous power and potential, you can achieve anything you freaking want to. So believe you'll achieve. Know that spirit burns bright within you for a reason. You find that in your heart, you take action on that, you move forward, and you will change not only your life, but this entire world. And that's incredibly powerful, just to be able to begin to believe that.
Aho.
Aho, brother. Aho.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Love of the Inspired Evolution and sharing the Love of the Inspired Evolution. If you feel like this content has supported you or may support anyone else that you know may resonate with the content of it, please share away and share the love around. Thank you guys so much. And to stay up to date on whatever's coming out with the Inspired Evolution, please subscribe. There's all these links in the bio for you to tune into the episodes and all these different platforms, just so that message can get to you and your loved ones. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Stay inspired to evolve.